Did you need it? He's on.
Safety department requires a member to do a budget summary, and that's why you're on mail.
Okay. I hooked you up with PD Bank anyway.
Waiting for the band.
Okay, hold on, yep, we're gonna get the meeting started.
All right, we're good to go.
Hey, good evening, everyone. It is 7:02. This is the planning board meeting for the city of Bangor of February 4th, 2025. I welcome the applicants, staff, board members, members of the public. My name is Reese Perkins. I'm chairman of the board. Other board members that we have here on my left are Tricia Hayes, Ken Hume, Mike Basnet, Jonathan Boucher, vice chair right next to me, Ted Brush, former vice chair, and Janet Jonas is with us on Zoom. Good evening, Janet. Let's see, board members are volunteers from the Bangor community. It's helpful to know that, I think. City and staff members in attendance this evening include Planning Officer Anya Collette, Assistant Solicitor Grace Innes, City Engineer Jefferson Davis, and Planning Analyst Ryan Scannell. We thank them as well for preparing us for this meeting. Old business this evening, we have meeting minutes, board members from January 21st. Do I have any modifications or comments on the meeting minutes?
Move to approve.
If not, yeah, I would take a motion to approve the meeting minutes, and I've got that from member Hume, a second from member Boucher, so roll call vote, member Basnet?
Yes.
Member Boucher?
Yes.
Member Brush?
Yes.
Member Hayes?
Yes.
Member Hume?
Yes.
Member Jonas?
Yes.
Try and unmute.
No, it's
Oh,
us. No, you gotta turn our sound on.
Oh.
Yeah, there you go.
Try again, Janet.
Yes.
Okay, we got you, thank you. And the chair votes yes, so we have unanimous approval of the meeting minutes as written. The next thing for old business this evening is adoption of findings and decisions for 296 Kittredge Road. That is the flag lot that we approved at the last meeting. Board members, any discussion on this item? If not, I would look for a motion to approve the adoption of findings and decisions. And that's from member Brush, a second on this one. Member Boucher, thank you. Roll call vote. Member Basnet?
Yes.
Member Boucher?
Yes.
Member Brush?
Yes.
Member Hayes?
Yes.
Member Hume?
Yes.
Member Jonas?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes, so unanimous approval of the findings and decisions for 296 Kittredge Road. Thank you for those things. So I'll get to the introduction before we get to new items on the agenda for this evening. The planning board has two main roles. First, we review amendments to the land development code, which typically include either changes to the zoning districts or changes to text within the code. We do not have any of those items this evening. Second, the board serves as the regulatory authority for the land development permits, commonly known as site plan review. Site plans are reviewed to ensure compliance with city code as to parking, driveways, stormwater management, landscaping, environmental impacts, etc., as may be applicable. We also ensure that the plan meets the dimensional requirements for the project's zoning district. There is one item on the agenda this evening that is a land development permit, so we'll get to that in a minute. Before I get started, I would like to provide information just to help with the administration of the meeting. Information on the city's codes and standards and the comprehensive plan can be found on the city's website, should you choose to look for those things. When the applicant is asked to present their project or proposal, they or their representative should come forward to the podium and provide a brief introduction to their application. Once the presentation has been made, the applicant should stay at the podium while we consider any questions from the staff or board members. The applicant may then be seated and we will open up the floor for public comments. If there are any comments from the public, we ask that the person come to the podium and introduce themselves, state if they are a Bangor resident or an abutter to the property, and indicate if they are for or against the proposal. Either way, it would be helpful if you present your thoughts based upon the codes and the standards or the comprehensive plan, as these are the primary documents used by the board to make our decision. If someone wants to join the meeting and they are on Zoom, and I'm talking about the public comment portion of this, they should please use the raised hand function to let us know they would like to speak during that portion of the meeting, and we will bring them into the meeting. All comments and discussion should remain respectful and considerate of all others. Once public comments are completed, we will then close that item to public comments. The board will then deliberate on the proposal using the standards as applicable and act on the proposal. Standards will be read and voted on separately as required. Once the standards are reviewed, a decision will be read and voted on. Once a project you are interested in has been reviewed, feel free to leave the meeting. You don't have to stay, but please be respectfully quiet, as we are typically working on other things immediately after that. So for new business this evening, we have the land development permit application for grading and filling preliminary to eventual single-family home at property located on Broadway. This is map lot R20-006 in the Rural Residence and Agricultural District and Resource Protection District. The owner and applicant is RSQ LLC, but I'm sorry, I skipped a little bit. Note that this project was approved by the planning board on February 2nd of 2021. Some of us remember that, but it was never completed. I believe it had to do with fill, lack of fill, or unavailable fill or something. And so before you come up, staff has indicated the completeness of this application, and it is ready for board's review. Fees are documented and paid. The applicant's standing is confirmed. Does the board have any concerns about these issues, or do we have any concerns with conflict of interest? Seeing none, I would be happy to take a motion on application completeness. You can find that under the procedural background. Member Boucher, do you want to give us that?
Yeah, I move the application was deemed complete on February 4th, 2025. The applicant paid all applicable fees, the Exhibits 3 and 14, and the project is a major site development.
Thank you. Do I have any, I have a second on that from Member Bazinet first. Before we go to a vote on that, why is this a major site development, if I may ask?
Because of the amount of land disturbance, so 10,000 square feet.
Okay. It's by a square foot thing then, right?
Yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions board members have? We've got a motion, we've got a second. I'll do a roll call vote on the application completeness. Member Bazinet?
Yes.
Member Boucher?
Yes.
Member Brush?
Yes.
Member Hayes?
Yes.
Member Hume?
Yes.
Member Jonas?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. So we are content with the application completeness for the project. If the applicant or their representative could come to the podium. And just, we've got the package, we've seen the project before.
Okay.
Brief introduction would be great, Trish, thank you.
My name is Tricia Quirk. I am the sole member of RSQ LLC. We're talking about a piece of property that is approximately 10 acres. It is on the corner of Pushaw Road and Broadway. If you can remember, it's Pushaw Road Extension. There used to be a bridge that went over to Finson Road, I believe. That property is about 10 acres, and it had in the distant past been a gravel pit. So in order to make the property accessible from that Broadway entrance, we just need to fill that space so that we can ramp it down so that we can get to the property that will house a single-family home at some point. So if anybody has any questions, I would love to answer them.
That's great, Tricia, thank you. Board members, before we get to you, staff comments on this? Nothing, right? It's pretty straightforward. Board member questions to the applicant? Number two?
So you're filling in a space that used to be, where the bridge used to be?
No,
Is that what
it's actually, so there's a rough gravel road that accesses the property. It's a gate. We have a gate just to maintain, so that people don't use it for dumping and that type of thing, directly across from Pushaw Road. So there is kind of a gravel road that goes toward where the bridge used to be, but this property is just on the right-hand side of that. And if you're facing there's a small frontage on Pushaw, and if you're looking to your right, there's probably a 50-foot embankment where they mined the gravel. And then from there's probably a 20-foot elevation change from where the gravel road is that kind of accesses that property down to the space that would be buildable. So,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
It's kind of ironic, it's a gravel mine area that you can't find fill for.
I know.
Took it all out.
Yeah.
Any other board member questions for the applicant? Seeing none, you can sit down for now,
Okay.
Tricia, thank you.
Okay.
Public comments? And if it's helpful, you could bend that microphone down.
I know how this works.
Okay, I know you do, but still.
I spent many years behind this mic. Chair Perkins, members of the committee, city employees, members of the public, and Ms. Quirk, my name is G.P. Palmer. I reside at 1820. Sometimes I call that statehood Bangor. The year that Maine became a state. I'm a butter, one house removed. I played in this gravel pit more than 70 years ago, so I have a little history with this space. The bridge was called the Dudley Bridge. It went out in the flood of 1937. They never replaced it. I wonder if the road, that was the Pushaw Road, that access to that property was the Pushaw Road. And I don't know if that road has been discontinued. It's never been used for 85 or 90 years, but that would be the only concern that I have. The only other concern I have, it's part of my history, and I hate to see things change, but the world is change, and you have to learn how to live with it. So I would hope that this project would proceed with all the appropriate oversight that the city can provide. Thank you.
Thank you. So you're not necessarily opposed to the project here. You have a question regarding the ownership of the rights that there may be,
My only concern is the road.
right?
The Pushaw Road used to be right across there, and the access to that gravel pit is by what used to be the road. So that's my question, if it's been discontinued or not, or,
Okay,
that's my main,
yeah, but you're not against the project, you just have a question
I
or
just
something? Sure.
said I'm supportive of the project.
Yeah.
I'm sure the Quirks will do a great job.
Okay, thank you. We'll see if we can get you that answer.
I can probably
It has
answer.
not been discontinued.
It has not. I was, hey Jerry, I didn't know that was you.
It's me, Tricia.
So this is Old Pushaw Road.
Yep,
And so the property is not, we,
where's Broadway?
right here.
And it's really off the road,
It is, yep,
and that's where the pit is,
yes.
okay?
So this Pushaw Road,
So if the property actually misses that, that's still the Pushaw Road,
yep,
that gravel part in, okay?
yep.
And this is so rough because we used to mess around in it and make it look that way.
What a great place to play.
Yes, it
right?
was, it was terrific, thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you, Tricia.
certainly.
City Engineer Davis, did you have something you wanted to say about that, or?
I just said it had not been.
You hadn't, yeah. I will say that maybe member Hume or member Basnet remembers from when we looked at this before. It seems to me there was a discussion that that end of Pushaw was discontinued. That's how I remember it.
Yeah, I
The city had no interest in creating a new bridge there.
Right.
It didn't have enough traffic to justify, and that's why
It
that
hasn't been discontinued.
was discontinued.
I don't believe so, no, it's not on our list.
It's still
Right.
showing us right away on the city parcel viewer too, so.
Maybe it was, I don't know if it was discussion that it was maybe going to be, but it never went through. I'll double check, but I went through the list and it wasn't on the list that was discontinued, so.
That's me.
Oh, it wasn't on the list as discontinued.
It wasn't, yeah, it's still, we're still showing it as a road.
That's not really an issue for us, though, is that
No.
correct? It may be an issue that the city needs to clean up at some point down the road or whatever,
So it's not a decommissioned road, it's still a road.
Yeah.
technically.
Yep.
Not literally. Yeah. But has no effect on this.
No, not at
Yeah.
all.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Any other public comments? I see no one on Zoom. I'm gonna close the public comment period of the meeting. Thank you. Certainly, you two know each other. You can contact each other directly if you have more questions, but thank you for your questions. Before going to motions on the standards, do board members have any other concerns they want to bring up? If not, then we will move right on to going through the standards. And so what I am looking at is part one, which requires the project to meet section 165.33, which is filling, grading, and earth moving activities. Can I have a motion, member Basnet, on that first one?
Chair, I'll move the board finds that based on Exhibit 2 and 10, the project meets the requirements of Land Development Code, Section 165-33A, which requires that the proposed activity will not cause soil erosion or sedimentation and will not increase uncontrolled runoff to or cause flooding on neighboring properties.
Thank you. Do I have a second on this motion? Member Hayes, thank you. Roll call vote. Member Basnet?
Yes.
Member Boucher?
Yes.
Member Brush?
Yes.
Member Hayes?
Yes.
Member Hume?
Yes.
Member Jonas?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. So moving on to item 2 of part 1, to have a motion on item 2. Member Brush?
Mr. Chair, I move the board finds that based on Exhibit 2 and 10, the project meets the requirements for Land Development Code Section 165-33.1s regarding erosion and sediment control best practices.
Thank you. Do I have a second on this one? Member Basnet? Thank you. Roll call vote. Member Basnet?
Yes.
Member Boucher?
Yes.
Member Brush?
Yes.
Member Hayes?
Yes.
Member Hume?
Yes.
Member Jonas?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. So unanimous approval of items 1 and 2 of part 1. Moving on to part 2, which requires the project to meet section 165-114 of the Land Development Standards. Have a motion on that let's see, that's just one item, so can I have a motion on that item? Member Brush?
Mr. Chair, I move the board finds that based on the findings made in Part 1 of Section 4 of this document, as well as Exhibits 2 and 10, the project satisfies the requirements of Land Development Code, Section 165-114D, regarding stormwater runoff from the proposed development not having an unreasonable adverse effect on abutting or downstream properties or protected resources.
Thank you. Do I have a second on this one? Member Bazinet, thank you. And a roll call vote. Member Bazinet?
Yes.
Member Boucher?
Yes.
Member Brush?
Yes.
Member Hayes?
Yes.
Member Hume?
Yes.
Member Jonas?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. So unanimous approval on Part 2. Moving on to the decision, there are several conditions on the decision. Before we get a motion on that, I'm assuming, and I'm asking Planning Officer Colette, that the applicant's aware of the conditions.
Well, we gave this to them before, and this was in the general permit requirements in their original.
So nothing new here, as
No.
far as we know. Speak up if something surprises you, okay? But it sounds like we've gone over these before, so can I have a motion on this decision? Member Hume?
Chair, the board finds that the project meets the requirements for a land development permit and therefore grants the land development permit for the proposed project within the following conditions. 1, the applicant shall maintain Old Pushaw Road with type D road fill material during the construction phase of the project. 2, the applicant shall be subject to periodic inspections by the City of Bangor Code Enforcement and Engineering Departments during the work and allow for possible remedies that may be required. 3, the applicant shall include erosion control measures to be frequently inspected by the Engineering Department and remedied as needed. And 4, the applicant shall provide a construction entrance adjacent to Broadway during the duration of work.
Thank you. Do I have a second on this one? Member Bazinet? And a roll call vote. Member Bazinet?
Yes.
Member Boucher?
Yes.
Member Brush?
Yes.
Member Hayes?
Yes.
Member Hume?
Yes.
Member Jonas?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. So that's unanimous approval of the standards as well as the decision for the project. So you're approved. It's a matter of getting with code enforcement and going on from there.
Okay.
Thank you, Tricia.
Thank you all. I appreciate your time.
You're welcome. So that was one major item for this evening. Board members, other business beyond that, we allow for a moment to, oh, you know, I forgot, I apologize. I didn't mention earlier that alternate member King is not here this evening. She's resigned from the board. She has conflicts with her work being overwhelming, considering volunteer work and stuff like that. It was just getting to be, that was what I would say, and that's sort of the impression you got. But anyway, so she's off the board. And I forgot to mention that when we did our introduction, so.
She'll be missed.
Yeah, she's got good experience, so I agree. But we do allow a moment for the discussion of the land development code and land use planning, kind of continuing on from what we've discussed in the past. And I guess we're happy to talk about anything. Do you have anything you want to bring up, or?
Not right now, no.
Any board members want to? Seeing none, I'm gonna push a tickler out there just because I want to see what we can do with it. There was a project on the corner of 5th Street and Cedar, I believe. It's a big white place, it had something like 12 or 15 units. And some of our more experienced members might remember this.
Corner of what? Cedar, something in Cedar?
Corner of Cedar, and I believe it's either 4th or 5th.
Fifth.
Big white place.
Yeah.
I think it's either 12 or 15 units, and we approved that being rehabbed and some sort of a multi-unit property, but I don't think it ever happened. And I'm just curious if there's any knowledge of what happened.
The only thing I remember in that area was a zone change. And they were gonna do a boarding house.
It
but-
could have been a zone change for the sake of that being,
Yeah.
because it was already a boarding house, but it was probably URD one.
Yeah, I think so, but I think it kind of fell through. I don't think that
Yeah,
they're doing
you don't
that.
know if it ever,
No, it didn't.
okay,
Because they would have had to come back to you for conditional use, and they
right,
didn't, so,
right,
yeah.
okay. I sort of bring those up as ticklers because, you know, we are hankering for, more housing in Bangor. And it's easy to forget projects like that could have happened. And I'm not sure why it didn't happen, but it's still good as a planning board to discuss them, I think. No other thoughts on that? I'll move on from that item. I also, at one point, a couple of meetings ago, brought up the discussion of meeting time. Only in part because the city council, I'm not driven to change our meeting time, but the city council did an adjustment to their meeting time. I think that did get finally approved, right? I thought it was gonna go into effect earlier than it did, but it's coming. And I think they're going from 7:30 to 7. And I just wanted to open up, since we've got a little bit of time here this evening, do board members feel one way or the other, whether we keep it the same or want to change the time or anything like that? Member Basnet?
If the agenda's full, and we go past 9 o'clock, that's kind of dragging on. But I really have no, 6:30 would be okay.
Yep.
7's okay.
Yep.
Just depends on how full the docket is,
Yeah.
really.
Yeah. Yeah, that's somewhat how I feel. I mean,
Yeah.
nobody likes hanging around here till 10 o'clock at night.
No.
And I sort of feel what happens after 9 is we start kind of going on automatic a little bit, and there's the danger we're gonna miss something because we're more anxious to get out than we are to pay attention to business.
2 hours in this meeting environment
Is a lot.
with a lot of details is
Yeah.
a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I feel like you too. I'm fine with 7 o'clock, but I'd be happy a little bit earlier. Any other thoughts, board members?
Yeah, I favor keeping it at 7.
You do, yeah. I got that sense, yeah. Yep.
So PTO goes until 6:30, so it's
7
tough,
hours.
yeah. It's tough for me to
Yeah.
get here or to have a trade-off
Yep.
with my spouse if we start before 7:30. Before 7, but I could probably make it work if the whole group was in that direction. My son's old enough to watch the girls, so we can make it work.
Member Hayes?
I'm good with 7.
You're good with 7?
Yeah.
Member Jonas?
I like earlier rather than later, but because of all of the other things that have been brought up, I think that, keeping it where it is fine.
Yep. Yeah, that's kind of the general sense I'm getting. Any staff member comments?
My only comment would be we'd have to work around other committee and commission
That can be hard.
meetings, which could be difficult. I mean, I think it's possible, but you'd be limited in the times available, so.
Yep. Somebody at one point brought up a different day too, and that would be even harder, right, because of that?
It depends on the day, because
Yeah.
later in the week, we're usually we have
Busy.
less night meetings, but
Yeah.
Tuesday
council.
works. Tuesday works.
All right, Tuesday at 7, sounds like it's gonna stay. I don't feel a big rally going in any one
Reorganize
direction.
my life for Tuesday.
5:15's out.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yep, okay, all right. So we'll let it be at that for now. Any other comments before we call this meeting? Seeing none, nice short meeting. I appreciate you all being here. It is 7:29 and